Jordan, good to have you here, bro.
It's a pleasure, Ebrahim.
Man, so I think I'm excited to, go into wherever this goes. I think we've been talking about like metaphysics, entrepreneurship, creation, like all these types of topics that I feel like can be a little bit out there sometimes. And I think
Mm.
for us, just like bringing it, bringing those topics into how to like really create physical stuff and how it can be tangible and practical is what I think people will find interesting, like bridging those two worlds together. But yeah, thanks for being here, man. Excited to dive into a chat and see where it goes.
Likewise, likewise.
Sweet, man. Yeah, would love like just a little maybe summary of your story, just like how you got here, what you've built over time, just to like give people an idea.
How I got here into this room. Um, Teleportation. No, not yet. I wish.
That's coming. That's coming.
Yeah. So how I got here? We're in a workspace that I built or co-created. Um, so it's kind of a merger of it's Nebula, and it's a merger of co-working plus coaching plus community. So we've got an ice bath, we've got a sauna, we've got a meditation box coming in. Not sure whether to call it the black hole or the portal. I haven't decided yet.
I'm gonna one vote for Portal. Black hole seems a little bit, a little bit deep.
You go in and you never come out again. And a few other toys coming, like the God helmet. But I guess just for to go back a little bit, is to it's sort of just been one project onto the next one in regards to entrepreneurship. But I think it just like exploring different parts of life. I don't think so. Yeah, born in Sydney. I grew up in Sydney. I love surfing. I just wanted to, like many struggles of the of younger men is to like get some money, get some money, so you got some freedom. So that's sort of where I started, and yeah.
How did you start out on that process of like trying to just get some money so you could probably just like have those basic freedoms, so you could probably just go surf and like have a good life? What was it like back then?
Yeah. So I was, my dad owned his own business, and my mom was also had sort of an entrepreneurial spirit. Um, but mostly she's more tradition, like more of the women's circles and things like that. That's what her passion is. But so I mean I got a job as a pizza boy, delivering pizzas. I think that was my that was my first job out of school, and then from that after school I really didn't like the pizza job. It was like at late at night, like, so I couldn't go and go out or whatever. It was all right. It was all right. Driving around, stacking up some tips, that kind of thing. It was like, it was all right at the time. But obviously, it's not a long term. You don't want to do that forever. My next job was a sales job, which was like door knocking, so selling things door to door. Shower heads, actually, so selling showers. So traveling around the state, delivering shower heads, and we used to get paid per shower, so it was like commission based. So you had to go up there, knock on the door, and say, "Yo, what's up? Can I come in your bathroom and change a shower head?" So yeah, we started off like residentially doing that, and then like had a doing commercial properties, so hotels and golf courses. It was part of the initiative from the Australian government to reduce the amount of electricity and water usage from in the state or the country. I can't remember. This is 10 years ago or so now, a little bit more.
Got you. So I always find the first kind of jobs really interesting because I find that you learn so much during those experiences. Like I would go around selling, like trying to like mow people's lawns as a kid, or like wash a car or sell sweets to other kids, and it taught me like really early to like know your audience because people buy so differently. I realized really quickly when I was selling sweets in school that I could. Well, actually, I didn't even have to buy them because my dad owned like corner shops, so he would literally like give me the stock, and I literally thought I was the best entrepreneur ever because my dad would give me the stock. I would then go to the kids and be like, "Hey, this gumball is like 10p in the shop, but you can't buy it because you're not allowed to have sweets. So I'll sell it to you for £1, right?" And so it was like they were happy because they could get something they couldn't get, and I was happy because I could make a good profit. Little did I know, like I wasn't having to pay for any inventory because my dad was paying for it for me.
Free stock.
So I was just like, I thought I was like a genius back then. But it taught me like audience is everything, right? Because it's like what problem is being solved, and to those kids, it was like I can't get sweets at all. There's like no access to it, right?
And what I hear from that as well is it sounds like your dad supported you as well.
Yeah.
Like you had that support. He's like, yeah, go and.
It was interesting with my dad because I always wanted to get a paper round. Do you guys call it that?
Yeah.
You know where you like throw
Yeah.
the paper? Yeah. So I always wanted to do that. It was like a 4:30 a.m. start to do that. My dad never let me do it. It was really interesting because he came from a very like tough background where like came over from Africa, like came here, like lived in like relative poverty, like holes in his shoes, like had to work his way up, right? So he didn't want me to experience the same struggle he did, which is like coming from love, but equally it's like I wanted to experience that, you know? So I found that different ways to be able to get that. But like didn't want me to do the paper round because of that. He was like, no, like you could do something else. So I'd like go work in his shop and stuff like that. But I forget what you actually said.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that.
Supported me.
Yeah, he supported you, but it sounds like he really had like that sort of disciplined focus when he was going through it, and he didn't want that from you.
Very much so, yeah.
How did you like then develop the discipline, or like, because I feel like that's such a key component to getting what you want, spiritual growth, growth in any area. You got to focus and put in that discipline.
So he was always super just in himself, like 12, 16-hour days, working his ass off just like to provide for the family. He worked hard, didn't necessarily like work the smartest. Like he could have been smarter with like how he could have hired more people and just basic stuff like that, right? So I saw that in him, and I saw how back then as a child, he would always be away providing for the family. But as a child, I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it as like, you're just my dad. I love you and I want to spend time with you. And so like he would give us like 20 minutes of time before he just passed out because he was so exhausted, right? Literally giving everything he possibly could for the family. So for me, I guess like the work, it got instilled in me from a young age. I'm also like if you're into astrology and shit, I'm like a Virgo. So I'm just naturally enjoy working hard. I just like that. Some people just don't like that. Some people just cut. Honestly, those people really trigger me. I'll be honest. Like when people can't just put the work in, it really bugs me. But it's just because I'm like a naturally like hard work just comes naturally to me.
Yeah.
So it was never like there is a degree of discipline, but what I've found as I've grown is that you need discipline to be successful in anything. But at a certain point, like I would burn myself out a lot, right? I bought into that whole hustle culture, Gary Vee style back then. You know, I'm sure everyone knows who he is, and it's a beautiful thought because it creates this meritocracy of like anyone can put the work in and anyone can achieve it, which I agree with. Anyone can put the work in, but it is a fine line between that and then getting into like a toxicity of hustle culture. And so I burnt out multiple times on that journey. And I realized like, actually, no, there's a way to do it in a balanced way where you incorporate just more of your like the feminine aspects of like recovering, meditating, like just doing things that help you to recharge. And actually, as a male entrepreneur, that's one of the biggest things I talk about now, because it's to do something in the long term. Unless you're Elon Musk, he's an exception. He's crazy. Even he doesn't recommend what he does, right? Because he knows it's not like healthy. But Yeah, that's one of the big things now I like do try to do is like have that balance. Like, yeah, work really hard towards something you care about, but also like you need to have balance to be able to do it for a sustained period of time.
Yeah, I completely, yeah, I resonate with that. And I think that they actually go hand in hand. The ethos of Nebula is create space to play, right? So I think that it's in those times where you are not in, coffee supercharged mode, but you're out in nature. You're at the beach, you're just strolling along, and you receive those insights. And it's those insights that's worth like years of experience, right? So that one small like tweak or insight is just worth a lot more, like when it comes down to time, for me, in my own experience. So, yeah, just I love getting out. I love getting out of the office. This is the first office that I've worked in like 10 years. And I find that every time I come in here, I'm not actually doing any work. I'm just having cool conversations, jumping in the sauna. But yeah, I feel like being more productive in those times that you need to be, and then just chilling out when you don't have to.
See, this perspective for me came a bit later after this initial growth period where I was just like balls to the walls focus. So like for you, when you were building your first business, like made your first million at 24, which is fucking awesome. Like, what was it like back then in terms of your perspective and like how you approached work?
Mm. So I remember so at the time I had another sales job. I was working to get my financial planner's certificate, and it was sales as well. So on the phone, selling financial plans, cold calls, and I had a bit of. I was working. My boss was 24. I was like 20, 20-ish, 20 something like that. No, it was just before 20 because I was going to Vegas. And I remember I was like, damn, I'm not 21. I'm going to Vegas, but
I want to hear that story.
Vegas has its ways. Yeah, actually, that was my first time in America, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I was like, let's get out of here, go to Mexico. But I was also traveling with like a bunch of boys. It was like 6 of us in a black van, traveling around, partying, and just like, doing the
Debaucherous things.
yeah, it was not ideal. Anyway, so Vegas, sleepless nights. So my boss was 24 at the time. He couldn't afford to pay me, so he was like owing me money, and I didn't have any. I didn't have much. I had enough to get there, but I don't know. I just always thought that I would be able to figure it out. Firstly, and then, so I kind of got to the end of the trip in Vegas. I was like, yo, where's all my money gone? Like physically, like where's it gone? And plus in my bank account. So I flew to Mexico, and I was just chilling in the hammock. And I was thinking like, what is it? This like, this money thing. Is it always gonna like be like I'm always gonna be like worried about it and shit like that. Where's my freedom? Should I just like leave and do the no money thing? And yeah, and then a book found its way to me through a good friend of mine, and it was the 4 Hour Work Week. So Tim Ferriss, and I think it was the principles in that book where you really are going for the lifestyle rather than stacking cash or like corporate like hustle, that kind of thing, which allowed me to scale my business, or allowed me to remove myself from the machine, and then to profit from that as well. So have profit in the sense of not having to be in the physical location, and profit financially, and yeah, time freedom. I think that's essentially what I was looking for. I think a lot of people look for that as well, to do what you want with your time, right?
What was that business? And then like, what age were you when you started that? Was this while you were doing the sales, or was this like after that?
Yeah. So when I flew to the US, I was 20. Um, and yeah, like I said, my boss wasn't paying me. So it's not like I really had something to go back to. He did eventually pay me, and his financial planning company's doing well now. Um, and so yeah, I was 20. I think I was 20. Yeah. And that was it was a rehabilitation program for drink drivers or people that have come unstuck on the roads. So, um, yeah, it's a bit of a um, rare one. Have you ever been caught drink driving or speeding or?
I've actually somehow never been caught doing anything. I just seem to have had some divine luck on the road. But I have plenty of friends who have gone through like had to do like a course or something like that. I don't know if it's different in the UK and Australia, but I know it's like a big thing because it happens to a lot of people, right? So your business was helping with the rehabilitation part of that, or
Yeah, so we were running the courses basically,
Got
and
it.
usually there's 1 or 2 degrees of separation. Usually, I mean, I'm from Sydney, Northern Beaches. It's either like you've been done or your mate's been done. You know, it's like it's a they've got RBT traps quite around like Friday night, Saturday night, and the public transport is not that great, so um, people just risk it. I was driving one street away to my friend's house, who lived at the top of the hill, and there was police at the bottom of the hill. So I was literally going around the corner, and he was there. But yeah, so life gives you lemons. What do you do? Make lemonade. It obviously wasn't that smooth sailing. It was a very low point for me actually, losing my license, because I needed that license for my sales job to go and meet the clients and that kind of stuff. Um, and I was like, "Fuck, what am I gonna do?" So I went to university. Last resort, last resort. Fuck it. I'll go and
it's like prison or university? It's basically the same thing. Okay.
yeah, university without a driver's license. Um, yeah, so I moved out of Sydney and went up to Newcastle, which is a couple hours up from Sydney, and yeah, living the college life. But it was a low point for me actually. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was having some Roaccutane, which is like for helping manage your skin, um, pimples and shit. And the side effect for that was like it helped you be fucking depressed. That's what it helped you do. So yeah,
Okay. So this was as you were going into uni.
I was going into uni, and yeah, so I lost my license. That's how I became involved in that business, and
So was it like you lost your license, then you went through a course and then realized like, oh, this is a big thing that affects a lot of people, and then decided to like, because is it tied in with the government doing a business like that? I assume.
yeah, so there's like a limited amount of suppliers for the or providers. So yeah, we had to, put our legal hats on and work with the government and hire the right people. Essentially, that was one of my early lessons: is get the right people involved, and your organization is more valuable, or they like to see, tick their boxes, right? So tick their boxes. Um, yeah.
I think I like about that is, and it kind of reverts back to just an off comment you made, which is like when you went to Vegas, you were just kind of like, I'll figure it out. Like I think that mindset is so key because that's like not what most people think. Most people like we have different human needs, right? And one of the top ones is certainty. And many people are driven by that certainty. Like, I want to know paychecks coming in at this day. I have this house, blah, 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 blah. But the only problem is with that is it means you really struggle to deal with uncertainty, which is something you deal with every day as an entrepreneur. There's always a degree of uncertainty, right? And so to me, it kind of, and what is an entrepreneur? It's many things, but one of the things is it's somebody who takes risks. And that risk seems like you had a degree of like acceptance for that risk, or at least a tolerance to it. Like, did you notice that back then that you kind of had this?
Yes, but it was more, I think I think that I understood that that time of my life was going to be the time where I should be taking the most risks. That's not to say that have stopped taking risks. You know, I love surfing, and there's an element to danger to that when you go out above your what you feel comfortable with. It's a little bit of fire inside. But I think it was just understanding that, like, you know, the 20s, or like 18 to 25 or 18 to 30, I'm not sure what kind of perspective I had back then, but it was definitely like, if there's a time, you know, a bit stupid as well, probably as well.
Yeah, ignorance is kind of bliss back then, right? Can be at times.
Yeah, ignorance definitely is bliss.
Yeah, got that, man. Yeah, so you had that perspective early on of like, and Tim Ferriss's book was a massive inspo for me as well. Just like opened up a reality that I didn't know was possible beforehand. Like, I literally didn't know you could run a business in a way where it's like more automated and you're actually like not working 12 hours a day. Like, that just didn't exist before, because I'd only seen that like from my dad, right? And so I like that. And then so you ran that business.
Yeah.
And then like, how did that go?
Well, I'm curious, you said that this is just an idea that I've come across recently, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. So, yeah, how did that book find you?
Yeah.
Where were you? Give us some context around where we were, and how did you go and find that book, or did it find you? The thing is that the idea was that the books find you, that you don't find them. So what's your thoughts on that?
So
Do you remember the context?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Or maybe there was one book that you remember that was like, kind of like piqued your interest?
That was a pivotal, there were several. That was a pivotal one. So this was while I was at uni as well. So I was around like 19, 20 when I found this book. The reason why the book came to me was actually because of a guy called Ty Lopez. And he was always talking about reading. And up until that point, I was never really big into reading because it just seemed slow and I couldn't focus on it. And I just didn't see the value in it. And then from his perspective, it's like, I think I may have mentioned this to you, like, if you could go and learn from Steve Jobs and be mentored by him, what would that be worth to you? And when I saw it from the perspective of, oh, I can just read his autobiography, that shifted everything to me, because then I was like, I can learn from these guys. So that's kind of how I got into reading. And then 4 Hour Work Week was basically one of the books that he recommended. So Ty was like, his whole thing was, I read a book a day. This Mensa member with 200 IQ, this like supposed like genius kind of guy. And this was basically one of the books that was right at the top of that list. So I got it because of that. And then it literally sat on the shelf next to my bed. And when I read that, it just basically like allowed me to dream and like let my mind go into what's possible. And then that just gave me so much fuel and fire. So yeah, that was my story of finding it, or how it found me.
I love the principles of that book, because it gets you to think very clearly on what you want, and then you realize so this was for me, like, I only needed like $400 or $500 a week. You know, I can chill in the hammock, I can surf, I can eat nasi goreng, I can have a few bintangs, and that's all I needed. You know, Indonesia, we're in Bali. It's like, it's pretty cheap, so you can live cheaply if you want here. So yeah, I think that I'm very grateful for Tim and for what he creates, and it's a good read.
Yeah, I hope he does an updated one. I know people are asking him that every single day. Like, will you bring an updated one out? Like, and I think maybe he will at some point.
Yeah.
Um, cool, man. So you started this business. Whilst you're at uni, you had this rehabilitation course business. Is that right? Or you were?
No, so like I said, it was a bit of a low time, and I did one semester. It's not like I did. I chose science because I at that time, even now, I thought, like, if you want to do business, just start a business. But if you want to do science, then so I was going to university. I didn't have my license. So I was like, okay, I got to do something for, a couple of years or whatever. And so I would go and study science because I was good at it and I enjoyed it. So like geology and measuring stuff and things like that. And you got lots of field trips. So yeah, did that. And then at a low point, I went on a trip away. And I actually kind of didn't even realize I was at a low point until I removed myself from that environment. I knew that I was a little bit fucked up. I did. But I didn't know until I removed myself and I stopped taking the Roaccutane. And then I was just like, this cloud had lifted. And I was like, there's no way I'm going back to university. Like, and I was in Bali at the time. So, okay, got to do something. And, yeah. And then, all of the challenges, the personal internal challenges of like, can I hire this person? Like, who am I to hire this person? And, can I do this? And like this kind of things, to definitely face those, challenges as a, 20-year-old, bringing in 40-year-olds and top barristers and lawyers and things like that, to support an organization. So yeah, I think like you said, it's just kind of figuring it out. And I'm not saying that I definitely haven't figured anything out. I'm just enjoying the process, enjoying the flow as much as I can. So yeah, even to get to this podcast, we got to figure a few things out. You got to figure things out every day. How do you get to work? But I think the real key is figuring out what you want, right? And then working kind of towards that. For me, anyway. What about for you? What you said? Figuring out, like, yeah, how do you relate to that?
I think the more I've quote unquote figured certain things out, the more it's enlightened me as to how much I do not know. Like I kind of was at a unconscious incompetence phase early on in my, have you ever heard of that, like 4 different stages, where I would, like, when I met my first mentor, I went up to him and I said, hey, can I work for your company for free? Thinking like, this is, of course he's going to say yes, because, I can work for him for free and provide all this value, and in return I can learn. And he was like, no, you can't. And he didn't say this, but it's like I can see it with hindsight, which is that I'm actually more of a liability because I haven't figured anything out yet, right? And so as I've become a little bit more competent and understand how things work, whether that's business or mindset or running a team or just these skills that you pick up and through entrepreneurship a lot of the time, I realize that there's so much that I still don't know. And so the perspective I have is, no matter who the person is, even if I completely disagree with what they're about, I can still learn something from them. Even if it's just, I know I don't want to be like that at the very least, right? So that's kind of the perspective I take on figuring things out. It's like every single day there's something to be learnt. And so also it's just opened up a lot more for me, because there was a period where I like fell in, I don't know if you ever had this, I'd be curious, because you had like success at an early age in terms of like business and finance. Like I thought I knew a lot of shit. And that was like one of the worst periods, because I thought I was better in some senses. And that was like a very lonely place to be, because I was just shut off, because I thought like if I just do this on my own, I can get better results. And since, yeah, thankfully, like dissolved that belief early on, and now it's like I literally can learn something from anybody, no matter who they are, right? I literally learn from people every single day. So yeah.
What would you say was, how did you, so I can relate to the solo path quite a lot, you know, yeah, just traveling around and yeah, I don't know. So what's that book? Some the guy that wrote The Fourth Turning, forget the guy. It's not the book, The Fourth Turning. Generations. The book is called Generations, and so like certain generations have trouble with certain things, and I think it's like our generation that has like most trouble with like collaborating with people. So if we well, I'm 30, you're at 28, so I think like tapping into that collaboration aspect, really it can become a superpower, right? But yeah, how would you say, how was your journey on or your process on dissolving that, like those thought process of that you're superior or something like that?
It was actually in some ways a very spiritual journey, which I'll get to. And just to go back to what you said about our generation being this independent generation, we're really just a product of our environment, and the current, you know, phase and economy we grew up in was very much an independent one. We didn't really need people, right? We could, if we want to have entertainment, we could just press a button, watch Netflix. If we want food, we can tap an app and food will come to us on Uber Eats or whatever. Yeah, Gojek here, and if you're in Bali. And so it kind of like there was almost this romanticism around like, oh, I can just provide everything for ourselves. And on some level, it's a nice, safe feeling to know like I've just got my own back. But so much of the beauty of life and the expansion comes from collaborating, right? So for me, it all came down to like my own personal journey, because when I would say collaborate with people, I'd have people come into my company, at my marketing agency at the time. I'd hire people, you know, younger guys, super motivated, like we're all aligned to the same vision, but then things wouldn't work out. I've realized, and it was very stressful and it was a tough time. And I questioned, like, is this doable? Like, can I find the right people? And for me, it came down to actually like, why am I not attracting the right people? What is the part of me that is attracting these people, right? Because one of the quantum laws of the universe, like attracts like. That's just how it works. We want to be around people who are similar to us, have a similar vibe. What is that? Vibration, energy, values, all of these more intangible things that just go beyond like the job, the company, the pay, this kind of stuff, right? So when I went on my own journey and I really like opened myself up to exploring possibility, potentials, tapping into the quantum field, all of these kinds of things, then like, wow, it was like magic. Then I started to attract people in who were like super aligned to the company, but also to like the values and the vision. And they were actually inspired to want to work with me because they looked to me like someone they wanted to be more like or to be around. And so that was my journey of how I've started to collaborate with more people. It's just, I've just become a better version of myself, in short. And so because of that, like the people who come in are also match that.
Nice. Respect.
Cheers, bro. What about yourself?
So my journey for collaboration, I guess. You know, I really prescribe to what Kevin Kelly says, who's the founder of Wired magazine. And he says, like, in your 30s, just go. In your 20s, just like go and explore reality, right? Go and see what it's all about. Go and experiment. Go and live in different cultures. And yeah, I think just the fact of doing that is like you're gonna be spending a fair amount of time alone, alone, but not with the people you grew up with, should I say? And then also a fair amount of time journaling or introspecting, seeing what's working through your shit or whatever, however you want to phrase it. Um, but yeah, I guess for me, um, I have usually been pretty good at collaborating with the older generations. It's only now that I'm really starting to, being in Bali, everyone's like under 35, pretty much. Well, not everyone, but there's a good chunk of talent and um, a solid people to work with or collaborate with. So, um, yeah, it's probably just a time thing, I think. Yeah.
Got you, man. And so, what was the step? So after that, if we rewind back to your story, after that business, you exited that business. Is that right?
I transitioned.
Transitioned.
So I founded it, and now I have my friend, one of my good high school friends, and my family organizing it. So yeah, and it was I really just enjoyed Bali. I traveled to 40 something different countries, and Bali had always just been like pretty close to Australia. The time zone was good. The surf brought me here, and the surf keeps me here. um, so then I started like some property developments. Yeah, I think I spent like so I met my property developer at a like a self development training which went for 3 days or 4 days, something like that. And he mentored me through property developing, helped me get over all my limiting shit. It's just concrete, You can put it here or you can put it there. So yeah, I think if you look at a house or you look at a villa from outside, it's like, wow, what's this thing? But yeah, so just taking.
Love that perspective, by the way. Just kind of like brings it back down to like what it really is physically. It kind of like takes the pressure off it almost a little bit of like this whole, because I look at when I look at this place, my view is probably like yours, which is like, whoa, like this is like a complex structure, all these things going on, and like, yeah, it's just like a lot of things. But then I guess that you can see it from literally like the inside out, and how obviously you created it or like built upon it at least. So you probably have more of that like maybe like engineering perspective, or just the real building blocks of it, right? Which I think is also a beautiful way to look at reality.
Mm, yeah, yeah, beautiful way to look at reality. And I think that's kind of like where we're kind of going now, is like you've got the science catching up to the whatever you want to call it. So you know we just discovered the Higgs particle. Not many people even realize what that is and how substantial that is. Even myself, I can't explain it. It's fucking quantum weirdness. But the more that, yeah, like building a house, right? I built my first house, villa, when I was 26, and started building it then. And yeah, just going around to all the shops and choosing the materials. Like, okay, I want those tiles. I want this. Shower head. We're expert in shower heads at this point. um, and yeah, Bali's great because you can go like window shopping to all of like the beautiful places and be like, oh, I want to borrow this, I want to borrow this, and put it all into one place. But yeah, I feel like yeah, like I said, I studied science, so I'm a scientist sort of at heart in a way. Just like to figure how things work. Yeah. What was your? Do you have a latest insight or idea which you're playing with on how reality works?
I think so obviously right now like science and spirituality are really merging. Like you look at the work of people like Joe Dispenza, who are able to really articulately explain things like quantum physics, right? Science that's only been around for 100 years. Like it was literally birthed 100 years ago, right? So this stuff's very new. Epigenetics, neuroepinology, like all of these things that sound really complicated, but essentially it's just new science to show that instead of, the way I look at it is, instead of us being like static physical beings, we are energetic beings, is the way I choose to look at it. Now, there's way more science, and the science people always like get angry at me when I talk about it this simply, but this is just my own personal perspective, and I like to just look at things and be like, okay, cool. How can I practically use this? Because I do like the science side of it, but I also want to apply it. So when I started to realize like we can change things like our like literally like our like health, like our bodies, through changing our vibration, changing the way we think and act, right, which changes our state. This really was just like a light bulb moment for me. So I started to do things like these deep meditations and go into, different states. And then I would just see reality change around me. I would see like money turn up from places that was super unexpected, or attract a relationship or business opportunities, or people just randomly start talking to me about quantum physics when I've never said anything out loud. I'm just like, at a certain point, it's like these things become too much to ignore. And then that created the belief shift for me that, okay, there's more to it than just this 3-dimensional existence. And then basically the science helped me open up that possibility. It helped me like get past the rational mind, which is why I love the science still to this day. I think it's a gateway for many people to, if you go and look at it, it can help you to just believe there is something more. And I think it's a privilege to even have that perspective, to be above the survival line, where you can look up and be like, wow, there's more than just this, like going to work and surviving. There's so much more we can tap into, right? And that's why I think physically looking up is so important, right? That's why I love like this place, like Nebula. It's like planets looking up. That's the way I see it, at least. So basically all that to say is, for me personally, it really comes down to belief. And I think our beliefs truly do form our reality. And the stronger that belief, the more physical density that creates to make something tangible. It's like the more, and the more, like I've tested this as myself, like the more I believe in what we're doing at like Quantum Mind, the more other people believe that too, because they feel how much they wholeheartedly believe in what we're doing. And when I look at visionaries like Steve Jobs, but bending like his famous reality distortion field, right? He just believed it so much that he was going to figure it out. And I think that's how we all experience our reality. One person, that previous version of you, maybe didn't believe himself that he could hire 40-year-olds, but then you figured that out over time and your beliefs changed. So my whole thing is like, instead of waiting to feel the happiness or to have the belief, just choose it now. Just tap into it in this moment and realize that this is all, I look at this all like a kind of like a game where it's like, why would you not choose the thing that's going to help you? It's just logically, right? So for me, it all comes down, belief is such a key part. Look at the placebo effect. You look at studies where, they'll put morphine into someone versus sugar serum, and then the person who gets the sugar serum will literally experience the exact same effects of morphine. Now, in science, that might just be looked at as, oh, it's just a placebo effect. But exactly, it's the placebo effect. And this is something we can use constantly to empower ourselves.
Yeah, amazing. And I know that you recently did a workshop, or you did a seminar, a presentation on belief. Yeah, I'm curious. What's the belief? For me, it's like you're pointing somewhere in the future that doesn't exist. So yeah, I don't know what the etymology, where that word came from. Do you know where that word?
It's what it means is, a belief is essentially a statement that doesn't need evidence. So it's basically a statement not necessarily based on fact. Right. So this is the whole point. A lot of people think their beliefs are fact. Like like many people. My dad's a prime example of this. Like he literally like believes something. He's like, this is how it is. I'm like, no, you believe that's how it is, but it could be a completely different way.
Dads are great for that.
Yeah, it's notoriously fantastic at doing that. Like this is how it is. So that's basically what a belief is, right? It is just a statement that we have that we believe to be true. Now, what I believe is the degree to which we believe that to be true has a huge impact on whether that happens or not. Now, you can go very far on the delusional side with this and just be like not grounded in reality at the same time. But sometimes you also need that if you want to create truly just things that have not yet been created, things that have not because they're being created in the mind yet, because everything comes from a thought. Every single thing around us, someone had a thought to be like, yeah, I'm going to create this microphone. Like literally everything started with a thought. So if you can think something, if there is a thought in your head, then I believe it's possible in reality. There is some probability that can be created. And this is very like in line with like quantum physics, that things exist in probabilities, right? And obviously some are higher probabilities, some are lower. But I also just like to believe in possibility. It just feels way more expansive to be like, yeah, I truly believe anything's possible, which has opened me up to so many more, even just conversations and opportunities that I did not have when I was more closed-minded. And that's just from a enjoyment of life perspective, it's way more fun.
Yeah, awesome. Great thread. Where to take it?
Well, like, can you see any ways that you've maybe used this consciously or unconsciously in like your practical life, whether you're building or just day to day?
Well, to reflect on what you were saying, like if your definition of yourself as a human is an energetic being, then that people have like different, that is more flexible than a material object, right? So, and then you believe something, then you are more likely to go on that thing because you're flexible. You know what I mean? Like the Matrix, it's not the spoon that's bending, it's you. But practically, I love to go window shopping. So like, let's try and think of an example. I always come back to Bali because this has been my base for a while. So just going into awesome environments. And I think, probably building my first villa, I spent a bunch of time in villas that were on the standard that I wanted to build, with a gym and a ice bath and a swimming pool and a office and 5 bedrooms, just like positioning myself in those environments that I wanted to be more of. I wanted more of that. And that's really fun. I feel like, yeah. So I don't know if that is really...
I think that's a really key part of it though, because the part of my model is like, I would say internal state equals external reality, right? And there are 3 main facets that I've seen that affect your internal state, which is your thoughts, feelings, and environment. And I think environment is so key and very overlooked at you spending those times in those villas, right? You're experiencing it. You're being there kinesthetically, understanding it. You're reframing the possibility because you're in those environments, rather than it just being like somebody else could be like, oh, I really want to do property development. I know plenty of friends who want to do property developing, and it's a thought in their head. They haven't even gone to a property and stood inside it and looked around and been like, oh, okay, this is what it looks like, right? But that is such a huge component because it affects your belief, right? Because it helps you to believe and realize it's possible.
Yeah, and you feel comfortable there. Yeah, I think you feel comfortable there. It's part of your environment. And then if you go out of there, it's like, oh shit, I really like that other place. Yeah. So, yeah, belief is I don't know. I feel like there's even a little bit more in that word, where I think it's definitely a gateway. It was definitely a gateway in my journey, or from clearing limiting beliefs and just understanding things of how buildings work, or how to open a company, or we all have these moments of insight, I feel like.
Totally. Yeah, and also I always question, like, where are those beliefs coming from? Because oftentimes they're actually just from like society or school or parents or some random guy who stands next to you and says stuff to you. Like, and we kind of just take them on, right? And I think a big part of at least my personal journey has been questioning those and actually releasing a lot of them. Because we can always talk about like self-improvement and personal development and adding all these things, but if you're adding to a full cup, it's just going to keep kind of washing out, right? So my view with beliefs has been to actually just start with a blank canvas. Be like, okay, if we just get rid of all of these beliefs, then what do I want to add in? And I think there's some beauty in having just like stillness and being minimal internally. Like Sam Ovens is, I think, a perfect example of that, how he runs his business very minimalistically, and you look at his life, it's very, very simple. He has a desk that he goes to every day. He has a bed that he sleeps in, and he has a school bus for some reason. Yeah, like in his, because his company's called School, so he bought like a school bus just because it looked cool. But it's like extremely simple. But that came from living a hedonistic lifestyle first of all, which again, no judgment against. Everyone can do whatever they want to do, but it kind of went on that journey. So that's why I always think it's like everything happening physically around us is typically a reflection of what's happening inside of us.
Yeah. I wonder if sometime in the future, we'll get over the simplistic lifestyle, or like, it seems like a lot of people now are going to the more run yourself business model rather than a strict owner telling people what to do all day. Probably sometime in the future it'll switch back to there'll be some other coronavirus or something like that to shake things up.
I heard they're working on one at the moment, so we'll see when this podcast comes out.
I love when there's no crowds in Bali, so no traffic. I'm super happy. Obviously the locals struggle a bit, but support them where you can.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things from friends who've been here during that time, just like how beautiful and open it was, like very special by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it was great. You could get from Canggu to Uluwatu in like 40 minutes, just straight up there. There's a swell coming, jump on the bike, surfboard on the side, boom, you're there. And, these are world-class breaks. They're like, they're very fun waves. And to have them uncrowded is like, it's pretty awesome. Well, I mean, it's still crowded, but like, not as crowded as it would have been.
I think one of the things that we search for most deeply is peace. Just having peace, having stillness. And it's funny because the path of an entrepreneur is the exact opposite of peace. It's chaotic every single day.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I love to play the building and the creation game and development and business. But there's not much that beats just like sitting out in the ocean with the wind on your face, watching the sunset with like a couple mates, just super peaceful.
Interesting, isn't it? We're such interesting beings. Like all the chaos we create for ourselves, and but I think we're dualistic.
Yeah, why not have both? Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the surf is pretty shit, so what else are you going to do?
All right, man. Let's wrap up. I'd love to. I'm not sure what the time is, but yeah, it's nearly been an hour, so I want to be respectful of your time as well.
Sweet, brother.
Okay, we're gonna fast forward. So you're 30 years old right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna fast forward all the way to the last day of your life here on planet Earth, at least. Maybe you're going up or somewhere else, but we're gonna go to that place, and you've built all the things you've wanted. You've got a beautiful, whether it's family, friends, just people around you who care about you. You've really like left your mark here in the way you wanted to, in the way you envisioned, and it's your final day, and you can't leave behind any of the material things that you've built to the people that you love and care about most, but you can leave one piece of advice or wisdom. What would you leave them?
That's a great question. Uh, I think enjoy the adventure. Have fun. Um, I don't know. Is this like a one word thing? Can it fit on the? Does it have to fit on like the back of a bumper sticker? Or what?
Whatever comes through you, bro. Whatever comes through.
Yeah. I think that's it. Uh, I mean, I have no. If I'm that age, then uh, what am I? Who would I? What age group am I going to say it to? You know, to anyone.
To anyone, just the people who you really just care about, just something you'd leave them with.
Yeah. People that I care about, I would say I love you. Um, I don't know if I really want to leave a mark per se, but I um, enjoy the ride and yeah, I love you to the people that are around at that time.
That's beautiful. Says a lot as well about, to me, that says a lot about where your intentions come from for the things that you do and why you do them. You know, that's what you'd want to leave, because it's yeah, like what, regardless of what your beliefs are around like reincarnation and all these things, it's like we get one life, right? And it's so cheesy and it's always so said, but it's so freaking true. Like we literally do. So it's like, yeah, enjoy the ride as you go, because I definitely didn't do that for a long time. I've just put myself through pain for a long time, and it's just such a good reminder to realize like you spend most of your time doing this, right? Working, all this kind of stuff, like make it something that you actually do enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a dualistic journey, right? Um, so, yeah, this was fun. I enjoyed the ride.
Me too. Cool, man. Thanks very much.
Peace, brother.
Peace.